What I understand now, and what I wish someone had explained to me years ago, is that a prenup isn't only about protecting money and assets. And honestly, I don't even think prenup is the right word for it. Because prenup sounds like you're planning the divorce, but that's not what it is. It's an exit clause, it's protection, it's clarity, it's deciding while you still care about each other, how you'll protect each other if life ever moves you in different directions. It's about protecting your life. It's about protecting your timeline, your mental health, your stability, your ability to walk away and still recognize yourself when it's over. Because what destroys people isn't always the ending. It's the way the ending happens. It's when hard conversations are avoided. It's when honesty is delayed. It's when someone knows something has changed, but they let you keep building a future around a version of reality that no longer exists. And I want to be very clear about something. Relationships don't end the day you find out. They end the day honesty stops. The moment someone can lie to your face and live outside the truth of what you built together. That's the moment the relationship ended. You just weren't informed. And sometimes you're still fully inside the relationship while that's happening. Still sharing a bed, still being intimate, still hearing, I love you. Still believing everything is real. Not knowing that outside of those moments, the truth is already different. And that's what makes delayed truth so destructive. Because you're not choosing your life based on reality. You're choosing it based on something you were never given the chance to see clearly. Which means every day after that, you were operating inside something that had already ended for them. Still trusting, still loving, still building, still making decisions about your future. There's something else people don't understand. It's not that I didn't ask questions. I did. I asked for clarity. I asked where we stood. I asked if we were okay. And the answers I received were answers that gave me stability. Answers that allowed me to keep believing. Answers that kept me building a life that for the other person had already changed. Because when someone isn't ready to face the consequences of their truth, they don't always give you lies. Sometimes they give you reassurance. Just enough reassurance to keep you in place. Just enough reassurance to delay your decisions. Just enough reassurance to protect their timelines instead of yours. And that's the part people don't talk about. Reassurance can keep you investing long after reality has changed, based on something that no longer exists the same way. Not because you were weak, not because you were foolish, but because you were never given the truth you needed to protect yourself. And that's why exit clauses matter. Not because you're planning for failure, but because you're protecting yourself from losing years of your life to something that already ended. Because reality does change. People change, feelings change, priorities change. And you cannot control whether someone continues choosing you. But you can protect yourself from losing everything if they stop. And that's why I see prenups differently now. A prenup isn't planning the divorce. It's finalizing the terms of separation while you still care about each other, while there's still respect, while there's still humanity, because divorce rarely happens between two people who still want the best for each other. It happens after years of resentment, years of pain, years of damage that didn't need to last that long. And now two strangers are being paid to negotiate the terms of your life, extending something that both of you already know is over. Not because it needs to last longer, but because nothing was decided when it could have been easy, when it could have been kind, when it could have been clean. A prenup allows the ending to be a transition instead of a war. And I want to say something to those of you who are already building with someone. It's not too late. If you're married, if you're living together, if you're cohabitating, if you're building a life with someone right now. And this doesn't only apply to marriage. It applies to anyone you're building something with. If you're starting a business together, if you're combining finances, if your stability becomes connected to someone else's decisions, there should be an exit clause. Not because you expect betrayal, but because you respect reality. Because clarity protects both people. It's not too late to sit down and protect each other. Not because you expect it to end, but because you respect each other enough to protect each other if it does. Because putting those protections in place now doesn't weaken what you're building. It strengthens it. It removes fear. It removes uncertainty. It allows you to stay because you want to stay, not because you're afraid of what would happen if you left. Because there's something else people don't talk about. A lot of people don't stay because they're happy. They stay because they're afraid of the unknown, afraid of losing their home, afraid of losing stability, afraid of losing their identity, afraid of losing everything they've built. So they stay, not because it's right, but because it feels safer than leaving. But imagine if you already knew what your life would look like on the other side. Imagine if rebuilding wasn't a mystery, but a plan. Imagine if you knew you'd be okay. Now your decision changes. Now you're not staying because you're afraid. You're staying because you genuinely want to stay. Or you're leaving because you genuinely know it's right. Not because you're trapped, not because you're dependent, but because you're free to choose. That's what protection gives you, freedom. And I know this because I've lived the opposite. Because when everything ended, I didn't have a safety net waiting for me. I didn't have something stabilizing my life. There was no alimony protecting me. There were things that might come later, things that were possible, but possible isn't protection, because possible still means uncertain. Possible still means delayed. Possible still means you may have to survive without it. And survival shouldn't depend on uncertainty. It should depend on something that already exists when you need it. Because when your life changes, it changes immediately, not later. And by the time help arrives, if it arrives, you've already had to figure out how to survive without it. You've already had to rebuild yourself without it, which means it was never real protection, because real protection exists when you need it, not after. And I thought I was protecting myself. I really did. I thought I was careful. I thought I was secure. I thought I was safe. But what I didn't understand is that I wasn't protecting myself as an individual. I was protecting myself inside of a relationship. And those are not the same thing. Because the moment that relationship ended, so did my protection. Everything I thought was secure was only secure as long as someone else chose to keep me there. That's not real security. Real security belongs to you. It belongs to you as an individual, not as someone's partner, not as someone's wife, not as someone's future, as you. Because the only protection that can't be taken from you is the protection you build for yourself. It stays with you. It protects you, even when someone else stops choosing you. And if there's anything I hope you take from this, it's this. Don't end up like me. Not because my life is over, not because I didn't survive, but because the cost was real. The years were real. The rebuilding was real. And some of that could have been prevented. Not the ending, but the destruction. Because endings are a part of life, but destruction doesn't have to be. You deserve to walk away with your identity intact, your stability intact, your future intact. Not starting from zero, not rebuilding yourself from the ground up, but still standing, still whole, still you. Because that's what protection was always meant to preserve. But there's another part of the exit clause that no one puts in writing. And it may be the most important part of all. It's the conversations, the questions you ask someone before your life becomes dependent on their answers. Not the surface questions, life-defining questions. Questions that reveal if their love is unconditional or situational. Because most people don't realize love often comes with unspoken conditions, not because people plan to leave, but because they haven't faced who they'll be when life stops matching their expectations. And you don't discover these conditions when everything's easy. You discover them when life changes, when plans don't unfold the way you imagined, when sacrifices are required, when staying becomes heavier than leaving. And by then, your life may already be built around someone whose limits you never fully understood. Not because you didn't ask, but because you didn't know you needed to. Because there are questions that seem uncomfortable in the beginning, but become devastating if you never ask them at all. Questions like, how important is it to you to have children? Not as an idea, but as a requirement. If we couldn't, would you still stay? If we tried everything, IVF, years of hoping, and if it still didn't happen, would you still see this life as enough? Or would I become the reason you left for something my body couldn't give you? Or questions like, if I stayed home and raised our children and you built your career, would I still have my independence? Would I still have my own bank account, my own security? Or would my survival exist inside your willingness to provide it? Because there's a difference between being supported and being dependent. And you don't understand that difference until your protection is tested. Or questions like, if I got sick in a way that changed me, would you still stay? Would you still choose me, even if I wasn't the version you started with? Because love is easy when life is good. Commitment is revealed when it isn't. And these aren't negative questions. They're honest ones. They are the questions that determine whether someone is choosing you or choosing the life they believe you will provide. Because those are not the same thing. And I believed that love meant permanence. I believed that when someone chose you, they were choosing all the versions of you life would eventually create. Not just the easy ones, not just the strong ones, but the human ones. What I didn't understand was that sometimes people are choosing you when life aligns with their expectations, not beyond them. And you don't discover that until something shifts, until their feelings change, until their vision changes, until they change. And the hardest part is realizing their timeline shifted long before yours did. That while you were still fully present, fully committed, fully building, they were already preparing to leave. Emotionally first, then mentally, then physically, giving themselves distance, giving themselves time, giving themselves a runway while you're still standing in the same place, believing you're both still there. And that's the part no one prepares you for, not the ending, but the imbalance. Because when someone gives themselves a head start, they're not just leaving the relationship, they're leaving you behind inside it. And decisions you would have made differently if you would have known the truth were never presented to you as decisions at all. They are presented as a future that still existed. And I'm living the reality of that now because there were protections available to me, benefits, opportunities, paths I could have taken if I had known when my life had actually changed, not when it was finally said, but when it was first decided. And those timelines don't wait for your awareness. They move forward without you. And by the time you realize, they're already gone. Not because you weren't capable, not because you weren't worthy, but because you weren't informed. And that's why truth matters, not just emotionally, but structurally. Because truth allows you to participate in your own life, to protect your own future, to make decisions based on reality instead of hope. Because people deserve that. They deserve the dignity of knowing where they stand, even when it hurts, because pain heals, but lost time doesn't return. Lost time becomes your new starting point, and that's what an exit clause really protects. Not just money, time, your ability to rebuild sooner, your ability to reclaim your life sooner, because time is the one thing that you can never negotiate to get back. And your starting point determines everything that comes after. So the exit clause isn't just something you sign. It's something you live. It's the willingness to ask the questions that matter, to have the conversations most people avoid, to tell the truth before silence makes the decisions for someone else. Because love should never require blindness to survive. Love should survive truth. And if it can't, then the truth didn't destroy it. It revealed it. And that revelation, while painful, it's what gives you your life back, because your life doesn't wait for you to realize it's already changed.